Well, hey, Eastown community. I'm grateful to be here, and I really am excited about what we are going to be discussing today. Here with me is Vanessa Russell. She's the founder and she's the executive director, correct, Vanessa? Of
Yeah.
Love Never Fails Us. And the amazing work that her and her team are doing here in the Bay Area, just advocating for young women and coming up and combating the illegal nature and just the oppressive nature of prostitution and sex work. It's just amazing to see what she is doing. Clint and I had the privilege of having a conversation with Vanessa the other day. And honestly, she brought some things to our attention that honestly we never would have really known had we not had the conversation with her. And it is actually regarding a piece of legislation that is going through the different channels right now called SB-357. And I just wanted to invite her here to just share with our community what that is about. And honestly, it broke my heart when I heard what she was talking about. And I really do think that it breaks Jesus's heart as well. And so I
Yes.
just want to set this up and give Vanessa the opportunity to really just honestly educate our community on some things that are happening right here and right now, and ways that we can pursue justice in our community. We know that this is a stance that Eastown has taken, and we're holding true to it, that we believe that God is a God of justice. And we believe that he wants us to advocate and fight for the marginalized and the oppressed. And this is a part of that work. So we partner with Vanessa in really trying to help make our community aware about things that are happening right around us. So Vanessa, can you just give us a little background and a little knowledge and education on this SB 357?
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much once again for caring so much. I always feel like I have a climbing partner in Easttown that will be there to pray me through. It's been a rough, I got to be honest, it has been a rough couple of weeks here. Unfortunately, as you all know, we are a 501c3, so we rely on other groups that are lobbying nonprofits to inform us about different bills that are, you know, re, relevant in the anti-trafficking space. And we didn't get wind of this bill until just about 4 weeks ago. And it has already passed the Senate. It passed the Assembly, and now it is in Assembly Appropriations, which is meeting on the 16th. And then it may be held in the suspense file, which means would be wonderful. It means that it might not go back to the assembly floor, and it might not hit the governor's desk for signature mid-September. But if it does, if we don't do anything, if we don't speak out, if we don't advocate, um, it will go to the governor, and it's very likely he will sign it, because once it's been vetted by senators and assembly members, it's deemed to be a good thing. And so this bill, SB 357, if passed, will decriminalize loitering for the purpose of soliciting prostitution. It has been co-written. This bill has been written by Senator Scott Wiener, and co-written by the ACLU and St. James Infirmary. There are many agencies that have signed on to this bill as approving agencies, and many that are opposing. Naturally, your typical groups, Christian groups, are opposing, and we know why, because we're obviously not proponents of prostitution, because we know what it does to people mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and it's not the design of God. However, I want to break some things down even beyond that, just from a humanitarian standpoint, because there's some things here that are really troubling me across the board about how this is coming about with SB 357. First of all, the way that this bill is being sold and to the masses is that it is Senator Weiner's hope to protect Black women in particular, and members of the LGBTQ community that are being unfairly harassed by the police And that is why there are so many, they're basically saying that there are so many Black women and LGBTQ plus community members that are being arrested by the police unfairly, as if when they're in these neighborhoods, they are just standing around and just hanging out in their neighborhood. They're not loitering for the purposes of sex, for the purposes of prostitution. They're just standing around and they're being harassed. So they've kind of positioned that narrative.
Hmm.
They've also positioned that the reason why there's a disproportionate representation of Black people being arrested is because they're being picked on, as if there's a whole nother population of other races that are standing around that the police are not picking up, which is simply not true. The reason why Black women and LGBTQ plus people are disproportionately represented in prostitution stings, in arrests, is because they are disproportionately trafficked. And so to me, that is the greater issue. Why are we not providing the necessary services to provide exit for trafficked victims, for people who do not want to be sold for sex? And unfortunately, the agenda of Scott Wiener and the ACLU is that they want to promote an agenda called Sex Work is Work. And they are strong believers in full decriminalization, meaning no one gets arrested in the sex buying food chain, meaning not the victim, not the buyer, and not the exploiter. They want full decriminalization because they say that that will bring more safety to everyone involved if no one is held accountable. Now, that is just, there's false narratives all over the place. The things that they're recommending are not based in data and research. Things that we know about the equality model out of Canada, things that we know about the Nordic model out of Sweden. And so, I'm going to stop going here for a minute, but there is just so much here, Jalen, and what I dislike and what really disturbs me is when people add insult to injury. Black women are already heavily abused and impacted in our community, left for dead, disregarded, undereducated, under-resourced. And so to come behind that, come on top of that and say, now we want to help you, but we're going to help you in the wrong way. We're actually going to increase demand. We're going to increase the amount of your children that are going to be snatched up for this sex industry that has been historically misogynistic, racist, terrorizing Black women and every kind of woman and every kind of person for centuries. And now we're going to glamorize that role for the purpose of what? For the purpose of greed, for the purpose of money, for the purpose of, of taking advantage of people that are already having a hard time. It's just intolerable. It makes me sick to my stomach. And so you can tell I'm a little passionate about this, huh, Jalen? And I haven't even gotten into SB-145, which is another piece that is just mind-blowing. Oh my gosh, the things that are going on in our community. It is astounding how much harm is planned for our children, our vulnerable people in all of these bills.
Wow. I think the thing, yes, I notice you're passionate. It's something we should all be passionate about. I mean, we talk a lot here at Eastown about justice and what it means to pursue justice. And I've said many times that it all boils down to the abuse of power and it being lorded over those who are vulnerable. And so I really want us to take a minute, Eastown, if you're listening in, and just really understand that, this right here, yes, this has to do with a political thing. This is a bill that is passing through legislation. But also the thing is we need to make sure that we're advocating for the lives of people, for the lives of the vulnerable, the lives of the marginalized. And this is a bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a bill that is masked saying that it wants to protect Black women and
Yes.
empower them, but in actuality, it is something that continues to be part of the process that strips them of their dignity and continues to just perpetuate this idea that they can remain in vulnerable situations where they can be taken advantage of. This is not a liberating bill that allows them to not be picked on. This allows the cycle to keep going, where they can keep being taken advantage of. And now this bill is stepping in to allow it to be legal for
Legal.
them to be able to be taken advantage of. This is something that I think there are so many places in the Bible where we could go and see how this is not right. And so I'd ask you, Vanessa, how do we step in? What do we do as a community to be able to make sure that, the heart of Jesus is heard, and not only heard, but seen in our community, especially in this kind of work?
Well, I put together a quick microsite or landing page on our website called the 5 Steps to Oppose SB-357. And so the first step is to write a letter to the Assembly Member Chairperson, which is Lorena Gonzalez. Write a letter to her, and I put the instructions on how to do that. The second step is to call your assembly member, express your concern. Thirdly, go to the media. Fourth, share this on your social media, your concern. And then fifth, and probably this should be number one, is if there are survivors in your community, give them a voice, really encourage them. I was on a call yesterday with Assembly Member Lori Davis, and I had survivor leader Sable Horton on with me, amongst a bunch of other nonprofits that are opposing this bill. And she was remaining quiet, and I said, you know what, Sable, time out. We got to hear from the survivor that's here about her feelings on this. And she, what she had to say was profound. It was heartfelt. It was real. It came from a 25, 26-year-old African-American young lady who's been a survivor, who said, not this, sex workers don't speak for me. Sex workers don't represent my experience. And you know what? That's a really important thing for us to kind of call out here, because one of the things that this bill is doing is it's aligned itself with sex workers. And what I want to say, without villainizing sex workers, because they have their own stories and they have their own reasons why they got to where they are. But what I have noticed, there was a woman that was sitting near one of my staff members, and my staff member told me, she's a sex worker, but she's also a medical doctor, and she's a white woman who's living in Pleasanton. And I thought, wow, you know, you're an MD, but you're choosing to be a sex worker. And what a beautiful choice that you get to, opportunity that you get to choose that. And I wouldn't be so fired up about this, because as we know, God allows us to have free choice, free will.
Yeah.
And he loves us anyway. He pursues us in every kind of situation. There's no doubt about it. He's not pleased when we're involved in prostitution. He's not pleased with it, but he pursues us anyway. He loves us anyway. And so he'll meet anybody. If they're a buyer, they're an exploiter, they're a victim, whatever, he's going to meet you. So that is clear. And I'm called to love you no matter which one you are. So I'm going to keep looking for ways, pressing myself, pushing back my anger and my frustration with maybe some of your decisions or your thoughts or your beliefs. I'm going to push that back just the way the Lord does. The Lord is long suffering. Wow. And so I'm going to keep doing that. But I'm also going to be walking in truth, right? And when I see somebody who's got the opportunity to be an MD, but they're choosing to be a sex worker, speaking for children that are Black, African-American, Latino, living in the middle of Oakland, having sex with a 70-year-old smelly granddad that's driven in, who's having them do sexual favors in a parking lot and choking them while doing so and giving them $20. I say, not okay. You cannot speak for this person, this 18-year-old that just barely made 18. So now she's legal. So now she can actually be, someone who's agreeing to do this, consenting to this. And now with the onset of SB 145, the actual year of consent is 14 years old now. So a 16-year-old,
and that's already passed.
Yeah. That's already passed. So the point is, sex workers cannot speak for, there's a privilege. There's a certain kind of privilege that a sex worker is operating with, whether it's educational privilege, Because I can tell you right now, down there on the blade, they don't know what a sex worker is. They don't know what a sex workers union is, and they're not even in remotely involved in that. It's the ones that are educated, that have chosen this life, that are organizing. And you know what? Those ones, they have other opportunities. They're choosing to do this. So, okay, fine, cool. But don't make a law that is going to create more demand. Because when you're trafficked, when you're a sex worker, you only want to sleep with one or two people of your choice that are clean in a nice hotel or in your apartment, and you have regulars. You have privilege when you're coming into this, not the experience of everybody else on the street doing street prostitution. So you can't speak for them. And furthermore, the other piece that we have to think about here is you're creating a demand that you aren't willing to satisfy. If you want to create the demand, then you need to sleep with these 20 and 30 people every day that now want to sleep with somebody, want to have sex with somebody. But no, you're going to say, no, 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 no. I only do 2 a day. I'll leave the other 28 for somebody else. And the other 28, guess where they're going to go? They're not going to go to somebody who wants to be there. They're going to go to somebody who needs to be there. They're going to go to somebody who's vulnerable, who has no family, who has no housing, who has no clothing, who has no food, somebody who's doing survival sex, somebody who's a child that's forced in it, somebody who's being trafficked. That's who they're going to go to, because you know what? You only want to see 2 people. That's not fair to them. So you're promoting a law to be changed, but you're not putting the services in place to help the people that are most vulnerable to it. And you're not even sympathetic to the fact that you're creating demand for something you're not willing to satisfy. Wow. It's very complicated, but we have to think this whole thing through, and we have to make sure that the decisions that we're making are going to be good for everybody, not just us.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, you just preached one of the greatest sermons I've ever heard. I mean, that is true. It's amazing how we've talked about this, especially over the past couple of weeks, just how much our greed and our selfishness can drive the decisions that we make, even if it costs a whole community of people something. And I really think that is our job, Eastown, to be able to step into moments like this and be the voice of the church, be the voice of Jesus, the hands and feet of Jesus, to really bring freedom to places like this. And honestly, if you have not been involved, or if you have not supported Love Never Fails, I'm telling you that the work against trafficking, and against and even restoration of women who have been trafficked, and even buyers. I had a conversation with you where you even are saying how you said that to me is just, I get angry when I think about buyers, but you said the Lord calls you to love them too. And so the work that you are doing, Vanessa, is profound. And I really do believe it's prophetic. And it is what Jesus has for us to do. So as the church, I think we need to do these steps, and we're going to post these steps and make sure you have access to these 5 steps that Vanessa has provided to us to be able to oppose SB-357. We'd really invite you to do that. We'd also really invite you to step in and not just stop there, but to also jump in and understand the work that Vanessa is doing and seeing what we can do to come alongside and serve Love Never Fails and the Bay Area. You have a daughter, you have a niece, you have a sister, you have a cousin, you all know someone, a woman who is close to you. Even young boys are being trafficked now. So you all know. And so the thing is I have 2 daughters, and just the thought of them being caught up in something like this against their choice, feeling like they have no other place to run but to the bed of 28, 30 men because they have to survive. It makes me cringe. It makes me want to understand why we live in a world where this has to happen. I don't believe we do. And I believe that the work that we can do together as a community can combat some of that. Think of your daughter, think of your sister, think of your niece, and understand that if we're willing to advocate for them, we should be willing to advocate for those girls who are out there right now on the street. And so, Vanessa, any closing comments you have? Anything for us that you want to leave us with?
Well, just want to thank you as always. So great to be with you today, Jalen, and to be with the Eastown family. Always, it seems that the Lord has put you in my in my path every time I'm at a difficult time in my life. And right now, this has really been keeping me up at night. And um, I know it's with purpose. You know, it's that I think about different prophets in the Bible that were just weeping and crying out to God, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm, you know, I'm so full of empathy for our young people, and my heart breaks to think about all of the strategies that have come again that are coming against them, that are one telling them that they're not valuable, they're not worth anything unless they look this way and that way, unless they have this many followers and that way. And that is just pushing them and grooming them. And then, you know, you have products and music and media and all these things pushing them and grooming them. And then you have these strategies to open up these doors for them to go into these worlds of just torture
Mm.
and just living a life they had never thought that they were going to live. And I know, I too, I have a young daughter, I have a young son. If anything ever like that were to happen to them, I don't know what I'd do, Jalen. I don't know what I would do if they were ever subjected to this kind of pain. You don't wish it. I don't wish it on my enemies.
Mm.
I don't wish it on anyone. And so I just ask, I covet your prayers as I'm trying to figure out how to navigate. I want to say, like, just straight up, like, I'm not legally trained. I'm not, you know, I'm not a politician. I am just a crazy person filled with love for people that are that I meet everywhere around me. And I pray that God would give me the wisdom on how to, you know, I have a meeting with the ACLU next week. I have a meeting with Senator Weiner's office. And I'm asking God, what should we do here?
Mm.
And there's so many other pieces of legislation like SB-145, which passed last year, that really harmed Black children, heavily harmed them by instituting a 14-year-old age of consent. There's another one, SB-519, that is attempting to legalize psychedelics, including date rape drugs, including Molly, ecstasy, right, including LSD for research purposes, again, out of Senator Weiner's office. What is going on here, Jalen?
Mm.
What is going on here? Legalizing drugs, date rape drugs, making it so that 296 registrants don't have to register if they molest somebody who's 14 and up, and the age of the victimizer is within 10 years, making it so that they get off in traffic situations. And now this with 357 decriminalizing prostitution.
Wow.
We got to pray.
We do.
We got to pray. We got to pray. We got to pray, God. And when we're looking at all these COVID things, it's almost like I feel like God is just like, come on, guys, get it together. Get it together. There's too much of the enemy taking territory. We need to push him back.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. And like I said, we'll make sure that we have these resources available to our community to be able to come alongside Vanessa and Love Never Fails and the work, the profound prophetic work that they are doing. I hope that, you know, if your heart broke during this, listening to this, good, good, because I think Jesus's heart is broken as well. And so let's be his hands and feet, and let's step into the dark corners of the world and bring hope and light, even if it's one girl, one step at a time. And so thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for your time. We love you, and we are consistently praying for you. And any way we can support you, continue to let us know. Thankful for you and thankful for Love Never Fails and the way that God is speaking through you in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you guys. All
All right,
right.
everybody, take care.
Bye.